I just told you how every individual's action and behavior is not just guided by himself, but it is partly a consequence of the social position that he occupies within the society. For example, I did a research a couple of years back on startups in India. You know what startup is? Young people, they come with a brilliant idea and they try to make a business proposal, go to a venture capitalist, an investor, and they sell the idea. And if the investor is convinced, he will invest in it. Now, that is a startup. And I took 30 successful startups in the country. Okay, I made a list of the 30 successful startups in the country, most successful startups in the country. And I started looking at, this is part of a project that I did when I was in Cambridge. And I started looking at who are the people who made the startup. Okay. And it is interesting that out of 30, more than 26 belonged to particular community in the country. And that community has less than 2%. Yes, they were all mostly IITians or from IIM or from one of the big B schools. And, you know, there is a certain profile, yes. But it is interesting that all of them belong to very particular caste communities. Not even communities. In fact, there are only two caste communities that they all belong to. And both of the caste communities put together constitute less than 2% of India's population. So what is it? Is it that only those people have the entrepreneurial skills to make a successful startup? Or is it that somehow that they are part of a particular community increases their chances of A, thinking of a startup, and B, implementing it successfully because they have the social support, they have the years of cultural conditioning and nurturing and thinking like a businessman, that when they do think of a startup and when they finally execute a startup, it turns successful. Okay. And this is sociological thinking again. And I'm trying to tell you because sociological thinking is very intuitive. It needs to become a second nature for you. Okay. Now look at this. At an individual level, you may think, yes, I mean, these are just startups. And what has caste to do with success of a startup? Well, if that is the case, why is it that 26 people and the four people, other than the 26, it is not that they are from any random caste. They are also from the upper castes. Two of them, by the name or by the investigation that I did, I could not get their caste identity. And to some extent, there are restrictions on how much investigation you can do on the caste of a person. There are legal restrictions, which is why I was limited by that. But my gut feeling is that in the remaining four are also from the upper caste. Okay, I just could not identify their caste particularly. But the 26 belong to one particular caste community. And as a sociologist, so what is the story that is told to you? Oh, you're a young person, work hard, give your best, be dedicated, stay focused, and success will come. Okay. But is that story entirely true? If that were the case, are we saying that people from other caste communities uh, don't work hard, or somehow they are not focused, or they are not dedicated? That may not be the case, no? It is more likely that there are some other things that are at play, and which is why sociology makes such an interesting discipline, because economists, political scientists, they come up with solutions, political economy solutions, public policy solutions, basically. Like, okay, what do we do? Say there is an issue of, in NCERT textbook, there is a brilliant example of how after Kargil, because ours is a patrilineal society and patriarchal society, The government of India thought that it could be a problem if they gave the money to the kith and kin of the soldier who died. After the Kargil war, the government of India took a decision to give whatever compensation due to the soldier to his wife. Okay, so that she is well provided for, so that she can then raise her children, whatever. It's a good initiative. A lot of these things happen actually even today. If you know, a lot of yojanas, a lot of schemes are given targeted to the women. Only the woman can take the claim. There are a lot of schemes like that, and there is a reason why the government of India does that. But you know what happened interestingly with the Kargil issue? Those of you who have read NCRT must know this. Uh, what people started doing is, in order to ensure that that money or that compensation that was paid to the widows of the Kargil war soldiers who were martyred, who died, in order to ensure that that compensation remained within the family, what families did was they started marrying these widows to the brother-in-law, to the brother of the soldier. You're getting it right. They What families started doing was, families of these soldiers who died in the war, what they started doing was, to, now if this woman gets the money, she's going to go away with the money. In order to ensure that she stayed in their family, that the money stayed in the family, what they did is they got her married to the brother of the soldier, basically her brother-in-law. Devar in Hindi, it's called Devar in whatever other languages. Now, sometimes the brother was much, much younger than the woman. In fact, he was even a minor many times. So you see, a public policy which was intended to have good consequences to empower the woman of a soldier who sacrificed his life in the service of the nation, because of social settings, because we are a patrilineal society, because we are a patriarchal society, because in our society it is acceptable, value system wise, it is acceptable cultural, because that's what happens in Mahabharata too, that is what happens in a lot of villages today also, that for property reasons marriages are made. Okay, these are all the social settings because of which an intended policy actually brought more harm and pain to that woman. This can only be understood by a sociologist. And this is what sociology brings to the table. And as a everyday real administrator, you're not an economist, you're not an expert, you're not some academic sitting in some university writing off something. No, you are required to implement policies in real life. And for you to be able to appreciate whether a policy or a decision that you're taking will have real consequences or not, you need to appreciate these social and sociological aspects of the society, that our society does not operate in a vacuum. All of this is a discussion that is intended to develop your sociological imagination.